I thought being introduced as just a friend at a wedding reception would be a small humiliation. It turned out to be the last straw. My name is Kenneth Pierce. Friend, call me Ken. I'm 45. Until recently, I ran a manufacturing plant in Toledo, Ohio. Decent job. Profit-sharing plan that set me up. I had a wife, Felicity, who ran an Etsy shop selling handmade crafts. We'd been together 6 years, married for 4. She had 2 kids from a previous relationship, Connor, 14, and Emma, 11. I had a son, Jake, 16, living with my ex-wife in Columbus. Second marriages make you think you've learned your lessons. You go in older, supposedly wiser. You watch for red flags. You build together. Felicity and I bought a house. Nothing fancy, but solid. 3 bedrooms, a decent yard, close to good schools. I helped launch her Etsy store. I fronted $50,000 for equipment, embroidery machines, bulk materials. She said it was a loan. I called it an investment. No paperwork. Just Trust Saturday, September 16th. Her cousin's wedding at a boutique vineyard, about 2 hours south near Sandusky. Beautiful place. Rolling hills, light summer light, the kind photographers love. Felicity spent the morning getting ready. Hair, makeup, the whole production. I put on my navy suit, polished my shoes, and we drove down together in her Honda. We talked about nothing important. The weather, the playlist, whether Connor needed new cleats. She seemed happy. She laughed at my jokes. She touched my arm. No distance. Just us. We pulled into the gravel lot around 3:30. The ceremony was at 4, but Felicity wanted to help with last-minute details. I grabbed the gift from the back seat, a silver picture frame we'd picked out together. We walked toward the main building, stone archways, ivy climbing the walls, white chairs in perfect rows. The kind of place that charges extra just for existing. Near the entrance was the reception table, white linen. The guest book, a woman with a clipboard and a smile that looked professionally installed, mid-50s, pearls, the kind of coordinator who's seen everything and silently judged half of it. She looked up as we approached, pen poised. Names, please. Felicity Pierce, my wife said, signing the book with that looping handwriting of hers. The coordinator glanced at me, eyebrows raising. And who's this? I waited to be introduced. Husband, partner, Kenneth. Anything instead. Felicity gave that little party smile, the one you use for strangers when you want to keep things light, and said, "Oh, he's just a friend. Just a friend." Those words landed between us like a stone in still water. I felt something cold and final settle into my chest. I looked at her, waiting for the correction, for a laugh, for an "I'm kidding, honey." She'd already turned back to the woman, pointing at something on the seating chart. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I smiled, slow and deliberate. I said loud enough for everyone within 10 feet to hear, "Actually, I'm just an ex." Then I turned and walked away. Her voice cut after me. "Can't wait!" she shouted. I didn't wait. I walked past the rows of white chairs, past the string quartet warming up, past a bar where they were setting out champagne flutes. My shoes crunched on the gravel. I didn't look back once. The parking lot felt like a football field. But I made it to my truck. Good thing I'd driven separately. I climbed in, started the engine, and pulled out on the county road. My hands were steady. My breathing was normal. It was the uncanny calm of a man who'd just watched the last piece of a puzzle fall into place. For minutes after I left, my phone buzzed. Text after text. Felicity, her mother, her aunt, someone named Pam. I glanced at the screen at a red light. "Ken, please come back." It was a mistake. "What's going on?" "Felicity is crying. This is embarrassing." "Fix this." Turned the phone off and kept driving. What I didn't know then was that those 4 minutes were enough. Enough for her mother to pull her aside and demand an explanation. Enough for guests to start whispering. Enough for someone to pull out a phone and realize the exchange had been captured on video, part of the videographer's opening shots. The dominoes were starting to fall, and I was already halfway home. I got back by 6:30. The house felt different, bigger, somehow emptier. I dropped my keys on the counter, loosened my tie, and poured 2 fingers of bourbon. I sat on the couch in my suit and stared at nothing. My phone stayed off. I wasn't ready yet. Around 7, I powered it back on. 43 missed calls. 62 texts. 3 voicemails. I scrolled without opening any. Names blurred together. Felicity dominated the list, but there were others too, people who suddenly cared about my private life. I was about to turn it off again when a new message came through. Not Felicity. Not family, Jake. Dad, you need to call me. It's important. Jake never texted like that. He picked up on the first ring. Dad, he said, I need to tell you something about Felicity. My chest tightened. I listened. I recorded something at the wedding before you left, he said. I was at Tyler's house that weekend. Tyler's mom is friends with Felicity's cousin, and I ended up helping set up. I saw you and Felicity arrive. I was going to say hi, but then I saw her talking with some guy near the side entrance before the ceremony. Tall, maybe 40. Gray suit. They stood close. She was laughing, touching his arm. I pulled out my phone and started recording. What did you record? I asked. She kissed him, Dad. A real kiss. Then they talked, and he said, see you at the reception. And she said, act natural. I opened the video. There she was in the dress I'd watched her zip up that morning, leaning into a man I'd never seen. They kissed for 4 seconds. She smoothed his lapel. They laughed. I watched it twice and saved it everywhere. What are you going to do? Jake asked. I'm going to fix this, I said. Legally. Sunday morning I drove to Columbus. Carolyn, my ex, had a law office in a restored brownstone. I'd been there twice before for custody paperwork. Walking through that door felt like stepping backward and forward at the same time. Caroline was waiting, blinds half drawn, coffee gone cold. Same sharp eyes. Same no-nonsense haircut? Sit, she said. I told her everything. The wedding, the guest book, Jake's video. When she watched the recording, Felicity kissing a stranger behind the hedge, her face stayed neutral. Then she leaned back and folded her arms. You sure you want to do this? Once we start, there's no going back to normal. Normal's already gone, I said. I want to protect what's mine. Caroline asked about assets. I had a list. The house fully paid, roughly $320,000. The lake property I'd inherited 4 years ago, about $475,000. My profit-sharing account, just over $200,000. I told her about the offshore account I'd quietly moved money into 18 months earlier. Cayman, about $190,000. She made notes. She asked about the $50,000 I'd given Felicity. There hadn't been paperwork. We had to document everything. Caroline filed paperwork to establish a trust, Tilden Elm Holdings, LLC. We moved fast. If we acted now, she said, we could lock everything down in 72 hours. She warned me it would get ugly. Felicity would fight. She might claim a common law interest. Let her try, I thought. We had records of deposits, transactions, and payments. We were building defense, not revenge. Back at work on Monday, I kept my routine. Production schedules, floor supervisors. Around 10, my phone rang. Felicity. I let it go to voicemail. By 11, she'd left 4 messages, each more frantic. I didn't listen. At lunch, I went to First Mayor Bank and spoke with Patricia Ellison, the branch manager who knew me and, crucially, discretion. I asked for records on a cashier's check I'd written 3 years earlier, $50,000 to Felicity Hammond. Memo, business startup loan. She pulled it up. There it was. The bank printed copies. No written loan agreement, but the transaction existed. Patricia warned me to freeze any shared accounts. I'd never set up joint accounts. Still, Felicity was an authorized user on 3 credit cards. I canceled her access and closed the cards. I sent one text. Talk to your lawyer, and I blocked her number. That evening, Caroline called. Trust paperwork filed. Everything locked down. Felicity would get an official notice within days. She probably already suspected something. The card cancellations would have tipped her off. Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Unknown Toledo number. I almost didn't pick up. Hello, Ken? It was Emma, Felicity's daughter. She loved science projects, and I helped her with math every Tuesday. Her voice was small. Dad, I need to tell you something about my mom. She said a man named Rick had been coming to the house when I was at work. He had a motorcycle. Connor liked him, But Emma whispered that Rick was mean sometimes. She'd heard her mom arguing with him about money. She said she'd heard her mom talking about selling the lake house to split the money. That house was mine, inherited, never in Felicity's name. The thought that someone might be plotting to sell it without my consent hit cold. I called Caroline. We placed a lien on the lake property first thing. We documented everything. If Felicity tried to forge a signature or sell property she didn't own, that would be criminal. Emma's call made the pattern clearer. This wasn't a single mistake. It was a plan. Thursday afternoon, a pickup truck was in my driveway. Felicity's father, Robert Hammond, stepped out. 73, retired electrician. He handed me an envelope. Notice of lien. He'd received the county paperwork at his house. Then he dropped another bomb. He'd co-signed a $50,000 loan for Felicity, using his house as collateral. He swore he hadn't known where the money went. Caroline pulled records. The loan was approved 2 weeks earlier, and the money was withdrawn in cash from ATMs around Toledo and Sandusky. Robert's face turned gray. Caroline dug deeper. Rick Dalton, 42 of Parisburg, had a history. Fraud charges 5 years earlier, settled out of court. He'd posted on social media about a big score on, bought a new motorcycle. The $50,000 was gone. Robert had been left holding the collateral. Caroline said she would file criminal and civil charges. Robert agreed to testify. That Friday, the video hit Reddit. My plant supervisor, Mike, knocked on my door with his phone out. "Boss, you need to see this." The footage had been clipped from the videographer's Instagram story and re-uploaded. It had 3,000 upvotes in hours and millions of views by the end of the day. Comments called it savage and the perfect exit. Public sentiment was overwhelmingly on my side. Felicity's lawyer called, offering a clean walkaway. Carolyn told me to say no. Criminal charges were already filed. "Let her swim," she said. Saturday, Felicity pulled into the driveway. She sat a full minute before stepping out. She looked smaller. "Ken, please. We need to talk," she pleaded through the door. "No," I said. "Your lawyer can talk to mine." "I made a mistake at the wedding," she said. I panicked. "You didn't make a mistake," I answered. "You told the truth. You called me a friend. You kissed a stranger. You took my money. You put your father's house at risk." I kept my voice factual. I laid out everything we had. The bank records, Jake's video, Emma's testimony, Robert's loan, ATM withdrawals. She crumpled. "I'll fix this," she begged. "I'll pay everyone back. Don't prosecute me." "That's not my decision anymore," I said. "You made this bed? Now lie in it." 3 months later, we were in a Lucas County courtroom. Caroline had built a tight case. Records showed the $50,000 in my handwriting. The judge, Patricia Kendrick, didn't seem impressed by arguments about a partnership. She saw a pattern of deception and financial manipulation. Her ruling was blunt. "You have no claim to the house, the lake property, or Mr. Pierce's financial assets," she said. "Repay the $50,000 with interest within 18 months. Failure to comply will result in wage garnishment." Outside the courthouse, Caroline walked with me to the parking lot. "She's got nothing, Ken," she said. "The criminal case is pending. The judgment is on record. It'll be messy for her." "How do you feel?" she asked. "Relieved," I said. It was finally over. Not everything resolved, but the chapter was closed. There was one more unexpected thing. Jake wanted to live with me full-time. His mother agreed. Caroline handed me custody modification papers already filled halfway. He moved in the following spring. 14 months after the vineyard reception, was making breakfast while Jake did calculus at the counter. Emma wandered down for a waffle. Connor chose to stay with Felicity. The house felt full again, but quieter in the right ways. I'd put half the sale of the lake house into trust funds for Jake and Emma, and used the rest to pay down expansion costs at the plant. The offshore account remained untouched, a reminder that sometimes protection looks like prudence. Felicity filed for bankruptcy. Robert got a judgment against her. She was working in retail, living in a one-bedroom apartment in Oregon with Connor. She would be paying her debts for years. It should have felt satisfying. Mostly, I felt nothing. She was a closed chapter. Jake looked up from his homework and grinned. Dad, maybe this summer we can drive up to Menno Island. Just the three of us? Make it a thing. I looked at Emma. She nodded. Yeah, I said. Let's make it a thing. That afternoon, Caroline came by for coffee. Legal meetings had turned into dinners, and there was something gentle, unspoken, growing between us. She squeezed my hand across the porch rail. You're different than you were a year ago, she said. Lighter. I squeezed back. Good metaphor, I said. It's the truth. I thought back to that reception table. A simple sentence, oh, he's just a friend, had started a chain of events I couldn't have imagined. But walking away that day, calm and deliberate, set everything in motion. It led to trust documents, courtrooms, painful truths, and eventually, a new kind of peace. Second chances, better choices, a life built on honesty instead of assumptions.